Imagine waking up to find out that one of the most important players on the Ravens might be on his way out. That's right. There's a hot rumor going around that could shake things up in Baltimore. Mark Andrews, the guy who's always been Lamar Jackson's safety net, might be traded. This isn't a joke. One of the most reliable names in our offense could be counting his final days with the team. That changes everything. Is the front office already thinking about the future? Could a blockbuster trade be on the way? Or is there something we're just not seeing yet? Fica Kamigo 80 final, because what's behind this potential decision could reveal way more about what the Ravens are planning than you might think. Go Ravens! Think about the shock. With the NFL draft just around the corner, rumors start to swirl that the Ravens might consider trading Mark Andrews. And we're not talking about just anyone. He's one of the most beloved and consistent players on the roster. The rumor didn't come from inside the team, but from a respected analyst who knows how this league works behind the scenes. And that alone was enough to shake the emotions of a lot of people in Baltimore. Because moving a piece this big isn't just about football. It's about identity, legacy, and emotion. The speculation came from Raul Vacchiano of Fox Sports, who listed Andrews as potential trade bait for the Ravens. And in theory, it makes sense. He's about to turn 30, has dealt with injuries, and his contract is nearing its end. For a franchise trying to win right now, flipping productive veteran for draft picks could be seen as cold, but also strategic. But we know, with Andrews, you can't separate stats from heart. For 7 seasons, he's been the go-to target for Baltimore quarterbacks, especially Lamar Jackson. It's no exaggeration to say part of Lamar's rise came thanks to Andrews. When the pocket collapsed, when all other options were gone, the ball found its way to him. That connection helped define the Ravens' offense. Removing Andrews from this team would be like pulling a pillar from a house that's still standing. But the NFL isn't sentimental. It's a business. And the teams that win the most are usually the ones that know how to make tough calls at the right time. The Ravens have a real window right now, with a competitive roster, a dominant defense, and a quarterback at his physical peak. If they believe this is their shot to finally break through and reach the Super Bowl, maybe that means letting go of players who've already given everything they had. The real question is, would the value they get in return for Andrews outweigh what they're losing, both technically and emotionally? 1 or 2 extra draft picks could bring you speed and salary cap relief. But would someone fresh out of college be able to make the same kind of impact Andrews has every season? This isn't just about paperwork. It's about what Baltimore wants to become over the next few years. That's where the dilemma kicks in. Because on one hand, a trade could help build a younger, faster team. But on the other, it could feel like the team is cutting ties with its backbone, sending a message that might ripple through the locker room. The most logical path isn't always the safest one, and messing with your leadership core can lead to hidden consequences. What makes this conversation even more urgent is timing. The draft is coming up fast, and it's exactly during moments like these that bold decisions are made. The arrival of Lamar Jackson didn't just breathe new life into the Baltimore Ravens. It turned the team upside down in the best way possible. Forget that old conservative offense, with predictable plays and short gains. With Lamar on the field, everything became unpredictable. Defenses suddenly had to choose between dying by the pass or by explosive scrambles. And the truth is, no one has figured out a definitive answer to that yet. Since he took over as a starter, the team's play style completely transformed. Plays began to revolve around improvisation, speed, and the ability to turn breakdowns into opportunities. Broken plays became 30-yard gains. The playbook was rewritten to adapt to what only he can do. And in that process, players like Mark Andrews became indispensable, precisely because they understood those breakdowns and always knew where to be. The connection between Lamar and Andrews became one of the most reliable in the league. When chaos erupted, Andrews was a lightning rod. But over time, as other receivers emerged, the offense started to diversify. Younger players stepped up, the game plan gained new layers, and the team began thinking beyond a duo that used to dominate the middle of the field. And that changes everything. Lamar's impact goes far beyond the stat sheet. He forced a franchise to rethink its philosophy. A team that once played to control the clock and protect possession now plays to blow up defenses. And that transformation didn't come without risks. Injuries, criticism, and painful losses mark the journey. But no one can say this team is the same as before. The mentality has changed. The goal now is to win it all, and fast. But with big changes come big decisions. And the current moment forces the coaching staff to decide who should continue on this path. Holding on to players from the early days might be a gesture of gratitude, but it could also mean clinging to a past that's never coming back. Lamar is the present and the future, but who will stand beside him in this new phase? That dilemma becomes even clearer because the team is closer to the Super Bowl than ever before. The loss of the Chiefs still stings, but also serves as a wake-up call. If they want to get there, every move must be surgical. Every player must deliver their best. And perhaps the coaching staff is realizing that for this offense to make its final leap, the structure must keep evolving. And when that evolution involved the tight end position, one name keeps rising within the roster: Isaiah Likely. And what about you? Did you notice how Lamar Jackson's arrival didn't just change the Ravens' offense, but also made Mark Andrews an even more valuable piece? Drop a comment if you also saw this connection grow and reshape the team, or if you remember another duo that changed the course of a franchise like this. Let's talk about it. Isaiah Likely didn't wait for a green light. He took it. Slowly, without much noise, he stood out in practices, earned more snaps in games, and before anyone realized, he was getting more targets than Mark Andrews in key moments. It's not about disrespecting a proven veteran. It's the brutal reality of the NFL. Young talent, cheaper and with a higher ceiling, will always catch attention. And the Ravens are clearly aware of what they have in Likely. When Andrews missed time last season, it was Likely who stepped up, and he didn't flinch. On the contrary, he looked comfortable in the role, as if that spot had always been his. He showed solid route running, consistent hands, and a growing chemistry with Lamar that could be the beginning of something much bigger. That performance didn't go unnoticed by the coaching staff, and definitely not by the front office. What works in Likely's favor isn't just his age or his still affordable contract. It's the fact that he produces. In multiple games, he outperformed Andrews, especially in the second half of the season. That naturally raises a question within the team structure. Why pay top dollar for a veteran tight end who's dealt with injuries when you already have a ready-made, young replacement with the potential to dominate? It's hard to think that way when the name is Mark Andrews, but these are the kinds of decisions that separate efficient teams from sentimental ones. And it's not about a direct battle between the two. It's about long-term vision, about where to allocate limited resources, and the NFL's salary cap demands those choices. The Ravens know they can't pay everyone, so they must decide who truly represents the future. In this context, Likely is making a strong case, and the team seems open to making transition, as long as they trust he can carry the offense in critical moments. It's not just about receptions or yards. It's about presence on the field, reading defenses, effective blocking, and leadership. Andrews has always delivered that, but can Likely match or even surpass that level? That possibility puts the Ravens at a crossroads. Keeping both tight ends on the roster, each with a significant contract, might not be financially viable. And with Likely entering the final year of his deal, Baltimore needs to decide. Do they extend him now, fully bet on this emerging talent, or keep Andrews and risk losing the younger guy next year? Every choice comes with a cost. And when youth starts demanding space, trade opportunities, especially during draft week, often end up deciding the future. The mere mention that Mark Andrews could be used as trade bait during the draft has already stirred the NFL rumor mill. Not because he's underperforming, far from it, but because his name carries weight, legacy, and most importantly, market value. Raul Vacchiano from Fox Sports didn't float this idea by chance. He knows the mindset of NFL franchises and understands that a player like Andrews still draws plenty of attention from coaches and general managers seeking dependable pieces to round out their rosters. Andrews is 29, has solid stats, and a reputation built over 7 seasons. He's not just a good tight end. He's a symbol of stability in an offense that often leans toward chaos. But at the same time, it's exactly that value that could bring in strong offers. And the Ravens are not in a position to ignore assets. If a team is willing to pay a premium, whether in high draft picks or promising players, the front office will listen. There's also a strategic factor. The draft is a time of year when teams are most willing to take risks. The pursuit of a franchise player can push a team to offer more than they would during any other week of the season. And in this climate of urgency, the Ravens could act wisely. Trading Andrews wouldn't be an easy decision, but if the return means clearing cap space, injecting youth into the roster, and maintaining a high level of competitiveness, it becomes at the very least a plausible move. From an emotional standpoint, of course, it's a tough pill to swallow. Fans have a strong bond with him. The number 89 jersey has become a symbol of trust, especially on third downs. But on the field, business comes first. And if the Ravens want to move up in the draft or accumulate picks to gain more flexibility, big names have to enter the conversation. Andrews, with his experience and skill set, is exactly the kind of piece that could reshape another team's outlook. Another factor pushing this possibility is that Andrews will be a free agent next year. That decreases his value the longer the team waits. If Baltimore wants to get something significant in return, the time is now. Moving a player before he visibly declines is often wiser than waiting for performance to dip. The NFL rewards those who act early and punishes those who hesitate. The real question is, do the Ravens have the guts to take this route? Because the opportunity is there, but it demands detachment. It's not every day that a franchise stares down the chance to part ways with a fan favorite in the name of the future. But maybe, precisely because they're so close to the Super Bowl, this is the right time to make that tough move. And if the goal is to think long-term, Andrews' contract situation is already flashing red lights inside the building. Well, we're moving on to the fifth topic, but before we do, I notice you haven't liked this video yet. That's super important, so YouTube keeps recommending my content. And I can keep bringing you the best Ravens coverage out there. So hit that like button. It's free, all right? Let's keep going. Mark Andrews has just 1 year left on his contract with the Ravens. And while it might seem like there's still time, everyone in the NFL knows that this puts immediate pressure on any decision. You either re-sign the player now or consider trading him while he still holds value. The window between those two options is narrow, and the Ravens are right in the middle of it. The truth is, leaving the situation unresolved could be costly, both in money and in roster planning. Andrews will turn 30 next season, and with that comes an unavoidable question. Is it worth making a major investment in a new deal for a tight end who's starting to feel the physical toll typical of both his age and position? He's still playing at a high level, but he has a recent injury history and doesn't produce with the same burst as before. That matters, especially when there's a promising younger option like Isaiah likely waiting to step into the role. Re-signing Andrews wouldn't be cheap. The tight end market has gained serious traction, and players with his numbers and experience have leverage to ask for significant salaries. If Baltimore wants to keep names like Justin Matabike, Kyle Hamilton, and other young standouts on a roster, they'll need to be selective about where they allocate big money. And if Andrews ends up at the back of the line, a trade becomes even more reasonable. It's better to get ahead of the decision than to lose the player for nothing. On the flip side, there's risk. Trading Andrews now means giving up a trusted weapon in an offense still searching for consistency. And even with Likely's talent, there's still a gap between potential and proven. The team must be absolutely confident in this transition. But Baltimore's front office has proven time and again that it's not afraid to make tough calls when it believes it's what's best for the team's future. The 2024 draft might be the perfect setting for that turning point. There's also a market read factor. If the Ravens wait too long, other teams might lose interest or offer less for Andrews. The best time to deal is when the player still has a year on his contract and no bidding war is required. That's exactly where Baltimore stands now. With recent strong performances and a name that still holds weight around the league, Andrews could yield valuable draft picks, or even a player ready to contribute right away. All of this makes one thing clear. Either the Ravens make a strategic move now, or they risk walking away empty-handed in just a few months. It takes planning, courage, and most of all, detachment. Because when it comes to fan favorite, any decision creates waves. But the front office must see beyond emotion and think like a team determined to stay on top. And for those who think it would be a mistake to move on from a productive veteran, last season's numbers already show that Andrews' impact isn't quite as dominant as it once was. As valuable as Mark Andrews still is, There's no denying that his offensive production has dropped in recent years. Since 2021, when he was named All-Pro and surpassed 1,000 yards, he hasn't been able to replicate the same level of impact. Last season, even with 11 touchdowns, an impressive number, he was far from being the offensive centerpiece he once was. His yards per reception went down, his involvement in critical plays also dropped, and his consistency throughout the season raised concerns about his durability. A big part of this has to do with the Ravens' evolving offensive system, but it also comes down to the player's physical condition. Andrews no longer seems to have the same burst after catch and has dealt with injuries that kept him out of key games. When you weigh everything, age, contract, medical history, and current production, the idea of a trade starts to seem less absurd and more logical from a technical and financial standpoint. On top of that, we can't ignore the emergence of Isaiah Likely. Every time a young tight end has been given a chance, he's shown talent, versatility, and most importantly, more dynamism on the field. In some games, he even outperformed Andrews in productivity, becoming the go-to target on third downs and red zone plays. That changes the team's internal perception. When a young player starts making that kind of impact, coaches take notice, and executives start doing the math. The NFL runs on performance. It doesn't matter what a player did 3 years ago if he can't deliver at the same level today. And that applies even to established names like Andrews. That's why the Ravens are facing a strategic decision. Keep a veteran whose numbers are declining or make room for the future and save millions that could be used on other positions of need. This is the harsh reality of the league, and teams that ignore these signs often pay the price later, either by getting stuck with bad contracts or missing the window to refresh the roster at the right time. Andrews still has trade value because his decline has been gradual, not abrupt. But if this downward trend continues, his value will keep dropping, and the Ravens know it. More than just stats, on-field production shows whether a player can still command respect. And while Andrews remains a reliable target, he no longer strikes fear into opposing defenses the way he once did. That shifts the offense's balance and demands a new approach. The team can't cling to the past alone. And when the future is so clearly knocking with a rising star already shining, it's impossible not to pay closer attention to Isaiah Likely. And if you made it this far, drop a comment saying Mark Andrews is still a giant. That way I'll know you recognize everything he's done for the Ravens, even if this is now a moment of transition. Let's continue. Making rational decisions in football is never easy, especially when it involves parting ways with a player who helped shape the identity of the Ravens in recent years. Mark Andrews is more than just stats. He's a symbol, a locker room leader, a trusted target for Lamar Jackson, and above all, a name that commands respect both inside and outside of Baltimore. Considering a trade of this magnitude isn't just a technical call, it's an emotional one, too. But teams that truly win are the ones that balance emotion with planning. If the Baltimore Ravens want to keep competing with the best, they have to look forward. And that means coldly assessing the market value of their veterans. The draft is the perfect stage for moves like this, where a trade can bring in new talent that could reshape the franchise's future. In that context, using Andrews as trade capital could be a smart move. This isn't about disrespecting Andrews' legacy. Far from it. It's precisely because of all he's done that his name still holds value. Few tight ends in the league combine experience, football IQ, and red zone presence like he does. But that's exactly why the Ravens must decide. Reward him with one last expensive contract, or turn that value into youth and future assets. Fans will feel it. The locker room will too. But this transition is a natural part of the NFL cycle. We've seen it happen with other Ravens legends before. What matters is that when these decisions are made wisely, the team gets stronger. And if Andrews is traded, he'll still have the chance to contribute at a high level for another contender, leaving behind a clean legacy and a foundation ready to stay strong without him. And even with all that symbolic weight, the signs are clear. The Ravens are laying the groundwork for a new generation. Players like Likely, Flowers, and Hamilton are growing into leadership roles, and space needs to be made for them to lead the next chapters of the team's story. The NFL moves fast and hits hard, and only those who anticipate the future survive it. Mark Andrews will always be remembered with respect, But perhaps his greatest legacy will be making way for the team to evolve, not because of a drop in performance, but because of smart management. That's what separates a competitive team from a championship team. With everything we've laid out, one thing is clear. Mark Andrews is still a big-time player, but the moment calls for tough choices. He's a key piece for the team, a true symbol of reliability and leadership who's much more than just a tight end. His value to the Ravens is undeniable, and the team can't afford to let him walk with nothing in return. The real question is, will the team act at the right time or wait until it's too late? If you also believe that Andrews' legacy deserves to be honored, whether with fair extension or a smart trade, share your thoughts in the comments and show just how crucial he's been to our offense. Given everything we've discussed, it's impossible to ignore. Mark Andrews is at the center of a decision that could redefine the future of the Baltimore Ravens. He's been more than just a reliable target. He's been an offensive pillar, an on-field reference, and a symbol of his connection with Lamar Jackson. But now, with age catching up, his contract nearing its end, and Isaiah likely gaining ground, the team faces a dilemma. Hold on to a franchise icon or clear the path for what's next. The choice isn't simple, but its impact will be massive. The real question is, will the Ravens have the courage to say goodbye to one of the greatest tight ends in team history in the name of renewal? If you also believe that Mark Andrews deserves respect, whether he stays or gets traded with dignity, share your thoughts in the comments and show how essential he's been to building this offensive era. The identity of our offense is at stake, and the future of the Ravens depends on this decision.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself. See you there, and until the next video, go Flock.